Lemar, tell me something that you've done since finishing the programme.
The first job I had after finishing the FINESSE programme, so Hilton went with this strategy of centralizing accounting, not finance, but accounting. So that's sort of the bean counting, the transactional element that goes on a day-to-day basis. And so they sort of approached me and said, oh, can you temporarily fill a role here? And, and until then we'll find somebody to fill in the shoes. And I turned to the regional finance director at the time and the vice president at the time and said, well, why temporarily? Let me have a shot at it. And they said, okay, let's give it a go. And after that, I was shortly later hired as the finance manager for the shared service center, which is now rebranded to the Center of Excellence. And then a couple years thereafter, an opportunity came up. And I've always said, never say no to an opportunity, always put your hand up. So I went to Saudi Arabia for 2.5 years. And then after that, I'm now in my current role as the regional finance manager.
And what's the role of finance in hospitality?
So finance and hospitality, I would say, it's more about business partnering with the different department heads. So hotels are more than just heads and beds. It's, bums on seats, it's, spas, there's gyms, there's a whole amount of businesses happening under the same roof. It's a bazaar of businesses. So it's about how do you engage with every department head to drive the best performance out of them and to make sure that every part of the business is growing, is defending their bottom line, and they also are meeting their vision and their objectives. So if you look at hotels, most of the hotels, they're single assets owned by different companies, and Hilton are operating those assets on behalf of owners. And with that, there's multiple directors of finances, there's multiple directors of HR, there's multiple directors of operations, there's multiple general managers. So if you think about 200 hotels in the pipeline, for example, you're going to need 200 finance directors, you're going to need 200 general managers, you're going to need 200 director of operations, and 200 HR directors too. Finance is the bread and butter of where we're going and the trajectory. It's also a common language between different backgrounds and how people communicate to each other in the business sense and the commercial sense. But finance is about linking ideas to that same language and making sure that they're able to reach those goals and those objectives, but at the same time creating those meaningful connections with people around them to drive the business forward.
How do you go about creating meaningful connections?
It's about being able to see more than just what's on your front door and what's behind your desk, right? So if you look at the traditional sense of a finance person, it's this sort of finance is seen as this black box where information comes in, information goes out. But the difference in hospitality finance is I don't expect a finance person to be sat behind their desk the entire time. They're supposed to be out in the business, appreciating and understanding their peers' business. And then that's how you create those meaningful connections, because you're able to understand the viewpoint that they have on how they're seeing their figures. And that's where the difference is.
How does this programme springboard someone's career?
So if you take any of the graduate programs out there, everybody sort of talks about being a springboard to somebody's career. But where I think the FINESSE sort of has its unique selling point, it's more that you have senior stakeholders who provide you with such strong visibility that help differentiate you from everybody else. You've got a strong support system around you, whether it's mentors, whether it's buddies, and whether it's the regional teams around you, which really help pull you upwards and bring out the best of you. And they do challenge you as well, which, if you talk to some of the FINESSE candidates, they'll tell you stories where RFDs have challenged them, but in a constructive manner, which has brought out the best of them.